News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Dan Schwarzman. U.S. aviation officials and airlines plan to meet to discuss further flight cutbacks at Newark Airport following multiple breakdowns in radar and communication systems. The plan currently under consideration would encourage carriers to voluntarily decrease the number of flights for a limited time frame. There is a sense of urgency for such a meeting after an incident early Friday morning in which air traffic controllers guiding planes in and out of Newark lost communications and radar displays for around 90 seconds. It follows a similar breakdown that occurred back on April 28th. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has vowed to upgrade the country's aging air traffic systems. In a Truth Social post, President Trump says, quote, 80% tariff on China seems right, up to Scott B. Trump referencing Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Talks between the two economic superpowers are set to begin Saturday in Geneva, Switzerland. Bloomberg News senior editor Bill Ferries gives us his thoughts on the upcoming talks.
I don't think there's a lot of expectations of a big breakthrough trade deal, but there is talk on the U.S. side. We've done some reporting on this, that the Trump administration would love to see find an agreement where they could come out with tariffs cut a little bit more than in half, so down in the perhaps under 60% range, which would be a breakthrough if China follows through with it.
That's Bloomberg News senior editor Bill Ferries. Currently, U.S. duties on many Chinese imports are at 145%, with China reciprocating at 125%. Reports say that President Trump's team has set a list of roughly 20 partners as a focus of early negotiations, with the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative briefing lawmakers on the targets. The group includes nations such as Japan, South Korea, and Vietnam, as well as smaller trading partners such as Fiji. Switzerland says they held, quote, constructive trade talks with the U.S. and hopes to have a trade deal in place soon. The talks in Geneva included Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer, as well as Swiss President Karin Keller-Souter. The discussions included tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, along with subsidies and taxes. President Trump had threatened tariffs of 31% on Swiss exports to the U.S., citing a significant trade deficit in goods with the country. Even with all the trade uncertainty, New York Fed President John Williams, speaking to Bloomberg from the Reykjavik Economic Conference in Iceland, says the economy is still holding up, so there's no need to rush into cutting interest rates.
Right now we have time. We're in a good place now. Policy is in a good place. Let's collect more data and information about what's happening with trade policy, what's its likely effects on the economy, and then once we have that more information, we can kind of think of, what's that mean for the achievement of our goals in our policy.
That's New York Fed President John Williams speaking to Bloomberg's Francine Lacroix from the Reykjavik Economic Conference in Iceland. We check the markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. Wall Street ended the week on a cautious note as the U.S. and China prepare to start those trade negotiations. The S&P 500 finished down 0.1%. The Nasdaq ended up essentially flat, while the Dow lost close to 0.3%. The 10-year Treasury yield is at 4.4% and the 2-year yield at 3.9%. The price of oil is currently sitting right around $61 a barrel. President Trump is expected to sign 3 new executive actions today designed to reduce the impact of regulations. The first one mandates the government to create a list of possible regulatory violations that could prompt criminal offenses, as well as a range of criminal penalties that individuals face for running afoul of the federal rules. The second has to do with restoring commercial fishing access to thousands of square miles off the coast of New England that were blocked during the Obama and Biden administrations. The third focuses on water pressure and efficiency rules. In a statement to Bloomberg News, New York Representative Nicole Malliotakis says she does support increasing the state and local tax deduction cap to $30,000 from the current $10,000 limit. The SALT deduction cap increase is crucial for House Republicans who need to win the support of nearly all their members to pass President Trump's tax package. Other Republican representatives have come out against the increase, saying it's not enough. After dozens of pro-Palestine protesters stormed Columbia University's main library during finals week, the school has now suspended more than 65 students on an interim basis pending investigation and barred 33 individuals from campus. After Columbia was heavily criticized for its handling of protests against Israel last year, the Trump administration praised acting President Claire Shipman's swift action with a joint task force to combat anti-Semitism, saying she, quote, met the moment with fortitude and conviction. Former U.S. Supreme Court Justice David Souter has died at the age of 85 at his home in New Hampshire. The George H.W. Bush appointee was considered one of the court's most liberal members, supporting gay and abortion rights, limits on government support for religion, and restrictions on the death penalty. After 19 years on the Supreme Court bench, Souter returned to his native New Hampshire and continued to serve as a judge on the First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Dan Schwarzman, and this is Bloomberg.